Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Friday, February 6th. Um, so I didn't watch this interview because, I just can't stand listening to Erika Kirk. I mean, the problem here now for me, what I'm covering, and I don't think this ever happened before, there's two principles here, Candace Owens and Erika Kirk. They make my skin crawl. So it's like you just can't wait to turn it off. Like, and you breathe a sigh of relief when you turn off their voices, right? I'm sure there's people who feel that way about me, but there's people out there that they just grate on you. And this thing hasn't resolved itself yet, but it's resolved for me. Like, I know what Erika Kirk is, and I know what Candace Owens is, and I know what the state of the country is, and I know where we're at or where we're headed in free fall. But this story, keeps on lingering on. And so I missed the kind of most important part. Usually there isn't anything, unless she has a major gaffe like she does here. And she has it. So let's get into it.
Is such an authentic and true movement. I mean, case in point, you have high schoolers, some of them that are walking out for those ice out walks. Our students, instead of walking out, they're holding hands in a circle around the American flag praying.
Oh my God. Instead of walking out on the ice walkouts, they're standing. That's how authentic it is. Because is there anything more authentic than high schoolers standing hand in hand praying around the American fucking flag? Is there anything more authentic than that? This isn't the gaff. I just went back to where I was. It's coming up in a few, like a minute or so. But the American flag and all flags are bullshit, right? The fact that people would die for flags. Like I've said before, if you work for God, then you can't be a patriot. You can't be, you can't serve two masters, right? And so if you work for God and you're connected to God, then you're connected to everybody else despite their country, godly people, because there's godly people in every country. There's people who are aspiring to be spiritual, who are working on their spiritual, evolution. It's a small number of people, but there are people like that everywhere. And then there's all the people that could do that, right? When you become a spiritual master, when you have, reached a stage where you're 100% surrendered to God's will, you've mastered yourself and you're just here to do God's work and nothing else. Like, that's all you're here for. You're not here to enjoy your life. You're not here to, do any of the things that people do, the normal human behavior. You're just 100% here to work for God and God alone. You've got one focus, and that's to serve God, right? And when you become that kind of person, then every person is a potential saint. And it's your job to help them, if they ask you for it, if they, volunteer it. And even if they don't, on the spiritual level, you can do work and pray and, help that, the soul within this, because everybody's soul wants your help, wants to achieve its apotheosis, wants to become what it's meant to become, right? And so, that's what life is. And there's no fucking praying around a fucking flag. Like, there's no flag. Flags are gay and stupid, except for the pirate flag, which is awesome. Maybe there's a few other flags that are neat looking. The pirate flag is just the best. And every other flag is, just stupid. And it's, it's an indoctrination. And, it's symbolic, right? You don't need symbols. Symbols are very powerful for people, unfortunately. That's why there's so many of them. And so, people bow before symbols, and they wear symbols and get tattoos of symbols and, these things, and flags in particularly. But praying around a fucking flag, like that's it. You're talking about that being authentic and sincere. She's going without makeup here. Look.
There's a huge juxtaposition between what we are providing for our students rather than the other side. And so it's really
the other side, the devil side that that doesn't want U.S. citizens killed by ICE, right? And so I think she's, because of all the bedazzled stuff, maybe she's going without makeup.
And Charlie, before he was murdered, he told the team...
Wait, assassinated or murdered?
Andrew Cipher was in that meeting, our chief field officer. He said, I want a high school chapter on 35,000 high school campuses. And Andrew's like, I don't think there's that many high schools in the country. So they looked it up. There's 27,000. So Charlie was like, okay, let's do 25,000 high school chapters.
And 2,000 of them, fuck those guys.
I'll give you a little bit of a delta there, but he was intentional. He knew that Club America was the future, and anyone who's
It was the
watching
future. The Club America, so it's the fucking future. You know, a couple of weird kids in every high school, or weird kids who buy into this bullshit, right? You know, it's not the future, right? It's just a few weird kids praying around the flag, right?
right now, whether you are a parent, a student, I just want to encourage you to get involved. I want you guys to be able to know that there is a place for you, and it's with Club America, and that's where my heart is at. My children are Gen Alpha. That's going to be the incoming freshman class. I also want to be able to pour into these students for them to know that in this upcoming election for midterms, it is your first time to vote. And
It is. You got to get out there and vote because it's so important. It's God's will. Pray around the flag and, you know, vote for more support of fucking Trump, right?
Very powerful. And I want these students to understand that your voice is in that ballot box.
It's the other thing called "You're Being Brainwashed" tour, and some weird symbol here, and then and then this thing. But it's clear that by just the way that she looks different, they've toned it down. Whatever she's and they're trying to I mean, there's just no support for her, right?
Is in that ballot box. It is not with a weapon, and it's not to murder people. You need to get out there and vote and be able to understand what you're voting for, who you're voting for, and why. And that is why Club America is so important. And it's on our college campuses too, but Club America especially, because I know, Trace, you understand this too. You will never forget the first time that you ever voted. Never.
You never do. I fucking forgot about it. I would assume it was when I was like in college, but maybe not. Like, and it's like, it's kind of a big thing when you're at that age because it's something you couldn't do before. But I don't remember that, right? And I have a good memory. Like I remember substantial things. And so like it's one of the things that I've been able to rely on is my memory, right? And it's not as good as it was. But I wouldn't have remembered that probably 5 years after I did it. I would remember that. I don't even know who I voted for. I said my families were Democratic, so it would have been a Democratic person. But I mean, Clinton, is that? I don't even know. Like if it was in high school or, early college, I don't even know first time I voted. Right? It might have been years later. I might not have even voted when I was 18. Like I didn't give a shit about this stuff. So.
And there's something that's really special about that. And
it's so special. It's so special voting for, some bullshit, a fake election, right?
Even if I have to drive a bus of high school students to the voting polls, we'll do it. But
yeah, exactly. Do you have a bus driver's license?
It's so important.
Oh, look at this guy laugh here. Look at this fucking guy react when she says that.
If I have to drive a bus of high school students to the voting polls, we'll do it. But it's so important.
What the fuck?
And I'm just honored and blessed that Charlie entrusted not just to me, but our whole entire Turning Point USA team to carry this mission forward because God knows this country needs
it. Make heaven crowded tour.
And the only way to heal and move forward, aside from having, obviously, the Lord involved, is for Club America and our college chapters all across the country.
Okay, look at this fucking ghoul here. Holy shit, right? Holy shit, bro. So I went back a little bit too far, but it's coming right now.
I find it interesting, Erika, when you talk about at the very beginning of your statement there, you were talking about this authentic movement. How is it that you go into young people and you convey to them the authenticity of what is happening in this country?
Is there anything less authentic than her in this movement? We now know because of the whistleblower that we just listened to last video, that they have a very high turnover. Like over a year, like less than a year and a half, year, that's for a job like that's faith-based. If you were in there and you're a faith person, you're a Christian, and you 100% believe in Charlie and the movement, you're like going in there doe-eyed and just, starstruck and, this is so great. And, there's not a lot of things like this for Christians, like this girl said, this whistleblower, that being a Christian and conservative isn't cool. You know, you feel like an outsider. You're going to, all your friends are like liberals, and even the Christian ones are more liberal than they will be later. Like, you're in that time where liberalism and change, which I talked about before, is a part of your natural process. And so there's not a lot out there for you. And then here comes this movement that's for the youth, that's TPUSK, and you're really hyped about it. You're into it. And you work there for a year and a half, you're like, fuck this, right? This place is fucked. So there's nothing authentic or transparent about it. Charlie Kirk wasn't authentic because he was receiving hundreds of millions of dollars in shekels, and he wasn't bragging about that shit, right? So that's how he got his popularity. So, and she's so fake with her fucking fake grieving and all of it.
What do you say to them?
You can't explain authenticity. You either feel it or you don't.
You can't explain it because you can't do it. No one thinks she's authentic. Like, she's just fake. Like, that's what she is, right? Everything I've seen on her from now, for what she's doing now all the way back, she's performative. Like, she's not, I don't even think there's people who just don't know what they are, right? They just, they look at other people and they try to figure out how to act. Basically, everybody does this a little bit. If you're in an uncomfortable situation and you kind of have to fit in, or you don't know what to do, you're in some social situation and you don't know how to act, and you don't understand the people. You don't understand your audience and the people there, not even your audience, just the social situation. And you just do what other people do, right? You just do your best to do what other people do because you're out of your element, right? And so, like, there's people like that all the time that don't have an authentic self. Like, even when they're, in intimate situation with their marital people, there's no true, this is let my hair down and be who I am, right? They just don't have that ability.
Charlie was very good about that. He never had to over-explain who he was. He was phenomenal on his daily show. He was just an amazing man. Everyone knew that.
Everybody knew it. Everybody fucking knew, except for all the people that hated him and thought he was fake as fuck.
See it. And thank gosh we have all of his videos that we can see for years to come. But the young students see authenticity and they can immediately sniff it out. They can also see if there's desperation in the room. So thank goodness that our movement has always carried forth the authentic pillars of what Charlie established this on.
Okay, except for you're not into freedom of speech anymore, right, you guys? You're deleting comments and you're suing people, like, that stuff that he, that's the first thing that happens. This is what's happened with the Sizemore system. I got this guy called the Dodgy Truther. Dodgy's the fourth master of the system, and he's not a master; he's a piece of shit. But there's all these things, that principles of the system, and Dodgy's just broken all of them. Right? He's bringing in, like, it's supposed to be just the simple spiritual system of transmission and cleaning, and not hatha yoga, for example, not jazzercising, not Zumba, which they were doing in the ashram. And you don't bring in these other things, and then you don't make it political. You don't make it, it's got to be open to everybody. And Dodgy's just broken all these things. And I get this guy sends me stuff, and he's, all fucking, these people who are flipping out all the time because Dodgy just keeps on doing these things. Because, when they take over for somebody, when like, say, Jesus died, or, Jesus is the most recognizable to most people. And the disciples started to edit his stuff and change the stuff, right? Get away from his core teachings, get away from his life principles. And so, that's what happens when you take over somebody else's vision. And that's what they've done. And, they've compromised everything. And Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit to start with, and they are way worse. Like, the good stuff that Charlie Kirk stood for, freedom of speech and some of these other things, they're violating those things, right? And they've gone back on his movement. He was moving away from Israel. And, the Tucker Carlson hasn't showed back up for them, right? They're not, like that. He's not, I guess he was a part of the last AmFest. But, they're not psyched about having him around because now Israel's, controlling them, and they don't have an audience, so they need more shekels more than ever. But that's the first thing that happens is you see them, to see what the organization stood for on its best day, and it wasn't good then because people were quitting, and there's a lot of drama now behind the scenes even before he was dead, and now it's even worse.
I'm going to honor that and continue it forward.
I wonder when you talk about, the trial of Tyler Robinson, and you have been very forthright saying, listen, I think we need cameras in court. And the reason you say we need cameras in court is not because you want this to be, some kind of, you want this to be on the record. You want everything to be on the record. You want transparency, and you want to make sure there is nobody trying to twist this in any kind of outlying organization trying to twist this into something it's not. Is that a fair assessment of why?
Okay, so that's fucked up. This guy's supposed to be a reporter, right? These Fox News shills, I mean, this is just how bad news is right now. That is not a question that you can ask, like a totally leading question. But here's, look at this look at her. I'm so sad. I'm so sad. Talk about his trial just reminds me he died, and I have to go into my grieving mode.
You want this thing
I'm so authentic right now.
out there and transparent.
Look at how fucking dour she is. This is a fucking beaten woman. Look at this fucking beaten fucking woman right here. Erika Kirk is a beaten fucking woman.
Absolutely. I want there to be no hesitation in understanding of what happened to my husband that day. I want there to always be full transparency, because what I don't want to have happen is for there not to be, and then I am relying then on social media and other news outlets to explain the narrative rather than saying, hey, this is what happened. This is what here's all of the, it's just as hard. All of the facts.
That was not, it's just so hard. That's just like so authentic, right? She's talking about authenticity. That's just like so bad, right? That's her moment of just.
Here's all of the, it's just as hard. All of the facts on the table for you guys to see, and you guys can see on full display what happened to my husband, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts or confusion as to who did it and why. Okay,
so if they had that, right? If they had that, they would have already presented it. I mean, you think, certainly, you could say in the beginning, they want, let's say they're using this as a distraction. Well, there's a fucking handful of people now, let's say it's 10 million, even possibly less, that have any interest in this thing anymore, right? There's the TPUS gay people who are still into TPUS gay, and that's an ever-shrinking group of people. They've already all figured out they don't like Erika, and those people are pack people. They're not individual thinkers. And as more and more people shit on Erika, as more and more of these people, these Christians lose, any respect and belief in Erika Kirk, then the more people that will see it. And it's okay now because they're doing her grieving widow act. Doesn't, like I said, how long is she going to be able to do it? And she just did it there for a brief second. But now she's a dour, beaten woman. Nobody likes her. Nobody fucking likes her, right? And she's not likable. And she probably has experienced this before. She's probably experienced people are off-put by her because she's really fucking, fake and just weird and, and just not likable. People have a likability factor or non-likability. And, other women that she compares to are Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton and, Sarah Palin. I mean, these people, people like the idea of Sarah Palin until she displayed herself, right? So, I mean, the people on the right. But the people on the left, they just don't like them. And then there's people on the right that are like, oh my God, she's a nightmare. It's harder for women to be liked. It's harder for women to be like stand-up comics. It's harder for women in some of these arenas, right? Women have, a different standard. Women are expected to be better than men. Men can be just, a scoundrel and just likable scoundrel and, fucking whatever it is, right? A likable asshole. But women are there's just a different standard. Women are gifted with the ability to love on a different level than men because of being moms. And so they are also the arbiters of morality. These are natural positions. in terms of the teachings of the Sajmark system, that women, have born with a spiritual capacity. They are more emotional, because of this needing to be more loving and be more affectionate. And, a mother's just going to have a stronger feelings for her children because they're a part of her physically, in her body. And then, the way moms feel about it and the way moms feel about defending their children. And it's all this emotional stuff that's there that women have. And then the women are supposed to be more in tune with nature and God. Men have to learn to love through women often, through their moms and then their wives and these things. And so there's a standard for women that they just have to be a little bit better than a stupid man kind of thing, right? And so men get to be goofy and do these things, and where women are more harshly judged. And she's, aside from that though, she's way out there. She's just not likable. She's so fake in this whole fucking thing. But here's the more important thing. This is what I really wanted to say about this. She's saying here is, if the trial is transparent and they put all their so-called facts out there in front of everybody, then the majority of people will then just gravitate to this idea that Tyler Robinson was a lone single gunman, right? And that with all the information's out there, she won't have to rely on social media or any of these things. She'll just have the facts, the way the prosecution disseminates them in this trial that won't take place till another year, like a year from now, right? Fucking, if they had it, they would put it to rest right now. But that she can go and say, look at this stuff, look at the video here. And that all these people who are TPUS gay, enthusiasts, all these people will just accept what the government puts out. And she has no idea, who her audience is. Because, like I said before, these young kids who are into TPUS gay, they're going against the wave of liberalism that exists in high school and colleges. That's what young people are. Their parents might be conservative, but they're liberal, and they're being indoctrinated by the liberalism. At least they were. Now it's sort of, I think it's less than it was under, when it was at its peak in the, Biden administration, the Biden years, right? But now it's, it's swung back a little bit, but still, it's just time for you to be more liberal. And so there's been this conservative movement of people who don't buy the official story, that the powers that be are trying to push you in one direction and you don't trust. I mean, what Republican trusts the fucking government? Trump has been, now even with Trump, what Republican trusts the FBI or law enforcement in this arena, right? Maybe local law enforcement in your town, but not the FBI and this investigative type of stuff that goes on, right? The thing that takes an investigation to get to the truth. And they don't trust the CIA and these other things. And they think that Charlie Kirk's assassination is bigger than it is, that it isn't just one guy, that it's, it was done for a reason. Many of them think it's Israel, many of these people. And so she doesn't understand her audience. Her audience isn't just going to accept some bullshit that they put out there. The federal government and the state of Utah, and this story that already has fallen apart in multiple ways. And so when they do this trial, and God knows if they'll even be America by then, another year from now. I mean, every day it looks like, at least things are going to be changed significantly. And people aren't going to give a shit about this in a year. But people watching this thing, if it comes back around, just like with Epstein, they're not going to accept the official story. So it shows you how mainstream she is. She is one of those people. See, there are people when you're talking to sheeple, when you're a truther and you're talking to sheeple, you're dumbfounded why they just won't accept the truth as you see it. You're dumbfounded why they won't see the facts that are there, the things you think that they're facts. Every truther goes through this. And you don't understand why they won't accept it. It's because they don't have a truther in them. In fact, they're clinging to the official story. They're clinging to the institutions that support them. And they don't have the ability to question their institutions. They won't be able to get up. And you know how hard it is when you first wake up and and go back and participate in things when you see them totally different, right? It's like, let's say you wake up in your marriage or to your family, your parents. Like there are times when you wake up when you're a kid or you wake up in your marriage. This happened to me where I realized my marriage was fucked and that my ex was fucked and she was broken and just there's nothing I could do about it. And I just had to like stop looking at it, right? I just had to put my head down because I couldn't get divorced. It wasn't an option. And so you just have to knuckle under, and it makes life fucking excruciating. You have to like close off some reality that you see and not, think about it. Because if you think about it, you can't even function, right? Like you're in a doomed situation. And so when people realize that the system's fucked, and then there's not, the system's going to collapse, it freaks them the fuck out, especially sheeple. But everybody, even people in the truth community, believe in these pie in the sky. This is why they fell for Trump's "Make America Great Again" bullshit. Many of them, because people can't accept that we're fucked. Right? It's difficult. It's difficult to, I mean, if somebody said a meteor is going to hit, that there's that weird kind of movie, Melancholia, or these other movies where that disaster is going to hit. There's another movie I saw from Australia, and there's actually two of them. Like one I saw when I was a kid. An atomic bomb radiation was poisoning the world and everyone else was dead. And it hadn't reached Australia yet, but it was coming. In both of these movies, it was a more recent movie, probably 10 years ago, the same thing. And the people were just, knowing. Well, there's another movie with Steve Carell and that English woman, and then finding a friend at the end of the world, and where everyone knows that it's over. And you have like, a week or two before the fucking end of the planet where there's, extinction level event or, extinction event where everything's killed and it's coming. And what do? Right? Like, and if you thought about dying every day, like, hey, this could be my last day. I might die today. Like, there's going to be a day that's true. There's going to be a day that you die, and on that day, it's your last day. And there's the day before your last day, and there's a week before your last day, right? And if you knew that, what would you do? How would you function differently? And would you want to know that? Would you just want it to come out of the blue? Oftentimes, it's there for people when they realize, their health is failing. But sometimes it's just like a car accident, right? It's just like you're a vibrant, young, healthy person, and then you're dead, right? So, there's these things that people don't want to live with. It's difficult. And so, there's these sheeple that don't get it. And she's talking like a person who's a sheeple, like a mainstream person that believes that if you present the facts to her audience and the Candace Owens people and all these people that don't believe in the official story, many of them are right-wing people, Republican-based people, TPUS gay people, that they'll just accept it. Like, she's so fucked, right? She's so weird. And like that's, and maybe because she grew up as a CIA asset and she doesn't understand that like this is, or she's just lying, but I don't think she's lying. I think that she thinks she must know the official story is bullshit because she has to be in on it, right? And so, like, she has no respect for the people that are listening to her. She thinks that there's so much, she and the people that are controlling this are so much smarter than these people, these, independent fact checkers, these Nancy Drew mystery Candace Owens people that are going out there and doing their little fact checking, right? That they're not going to, that they're going to just accept the story when it's presented by the government. That this is the facts about Charlie Kirk's death and it was Tyler Robinson and this is why he did it. This is who he is. And you just accept all these things that we already seen. We've seen all these things. We don't accept what they already put out there. We don't believe it already, right? And so why would we believe it when it's going to be done in an official courtroom type setting, that's going to be reeking of corruption and disinformation. And so this is how weird she is and how fucked she is. Because she hasn't realized that the majority of her people, TPUS gay people, were, tending towards being truthers. They don't trust the government. They don't trust the official story. And then all the rest of us who are, we do this all the time for everything. And and she thinks the courtroom is going to put it to rest. If there's cameras in the courtroom and you see all these amazing facts, right? Like, she's so fucked. Okay, so let's watch that again here.
It's just as hard. All of the
It's just so hard. It's so hard.
on the table for you guys to see, and
Yep.
you guys can see on full display what happened to my husband, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts or confusion as to who did it and why.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to end on that. I want to talk about something uplifting, that the
Halftime show.
the alternative halftime show for the Super Bowl.
I mean, is there anything more uplifting than Kid Rock? Is there anything more godly and spiritual than Kid fucking Rock, that degenerate fuck? Is there anything like, when you think about God and America and uplifting and positivity and great things, look at how she just switches onto a fucking smile here. Oh, it's like, I am so dour there. We were talking about Charlie, but now look at, I can get to smile because Kid Rock.
Kid Rock, you're talking about this.
Kid Rock, yeah.
I thought I was kind of reading this and I thought, this is brilliant. After watching the Grammys and after watching, there is an appetite for this. I mean, it's a brilliant move. I'm just wondering what you hope comes out. What's the message you're trying to convey?
She's still looking dour. Look.
It's powerful because what Charlie
Is there anything more powerful than Kid Rock?
always loved and knew is that he wanted to be in the forefront of the culture war. He would be fist pumping to this. He'd be so stoked.
He'd be pretty stoked. Look at Charlie. He'd be so stoked about Kid Rock.
And what better way to honor him than just to get in the middle of this and be able to offer an alternative to families? That's the thing that's so beautiful.
Is there anything more family-oriented than Kid Rock?
About Turning Point USA and all of our programs, it's holistic. It's for the entire home.
Look at this guy. Look at this fucking guy. Go back here. Watch this guy look at her. Look fucking cool.
Turning Point USA and all of our programs, it's holistic. It's for the entire
Holy shit.
home. It's for every age. And so for us to be able to provide an alternative that's pro-America, that's
Is Nicki Minaj going to be there? She's going to be like a surprise guest?
just pro everything that's not the opposite of what they're putting out there.
There? Who's the people that killed Charlie? You mean the Zionist? All right. So that's Erika. And this fucking guy, I don't know who he is, but he is a prize here. This guy's a gem. So reluctantly, let's see what Candace had to say. She had a fucking open letter to Erika. I don't know how much I can sit through. I haven't watched it yet. Okay. The majority of I'm sure all of Candace Owens' viewers that still watch her and many other people won't see that this is her open letter to Erika. It starts off with Dear Erika. And I'm listening to it. I was scrolling through TPUS Gay, trying to go back and find one of the videos where I knew there were negative comments and then look at it and see if the comments were gone. But they might not be doing it just for new videos, right? So that's still not indicative. But anyways, because I didn't really want to listen to her. But she said something here that she's basically taking a giant shit on Charlie here in a second. So, which tells you that she's been lying all along about this thing with Charlie.
I was getting married and virtually, therefore, joined at the hip with my fiance. He was sort of a new third wheel at all of our events. A few months later, on May 1st, the public was informed that I was resigning from my position as the communications director of Turning Point USA. Now, there has been a lot of public speculation as to what led to that decision. The media ran with it was anti-Semitism or some disagreement about Kanye West, but that wasn't true. None of that was true. The truth, and I think that you very well know what the truth is.
Erika, you fucking know what the truth is, bitch.
Around for it, is that Charlie and I had a disagreement which fractured my trust in him. He did something that he had never done before. He lied to my face.
So, this exposes her bullshit thing about her friend being murdered and how obsessed she is. Because, the whole premise of this fucking thing is that Charlie Kirk was like a saint-like great person and sincere and authentic and somebody that was doing good. But we now know from all the information that came out that TPU, aside from the stuff that he was completely shackled up by Israel, Israel had a problem. And it was, and it's the Zionist, Israel. They had a problem which was the widespread realization on college campuses that there was a genocide and America was in a dysfunctional parasitic relationship with Israel. And they couldn't have that, right? Because, they rely on America to keep them propped up, right? We all know this. And so they had to fight this thing on college campuses. And before Trump was president, they had Charlie Kirk. Trump put pressure and, started taking money away from, all these things. Before they got Trump in, they had Charlie Kirk to go on these campuses and try to, gaslight these kids and tell them what they were seeing with Israel was wrong, what they thought they saw, or their ideas were wrong, and the genocide was justified. And he was going there just for that. And they gave him hundreds of millions of dollars of shekels to do that. So he was betraying his country, he was betraying his religion, he was betraying his audience, the youth, he was betraying the youth. And then, of course, Trump being a piece of shit that, hadn't shown his full piece of shitness yet. He hadn't unfolded yet to what he is now. And so that's what he was out doing. And these things turned out to be, failures. And Charlie Kirk was a failure because he took shekels and he was a lying piece of shit, right? And so there's nothing here. And if you take hundreds of millions of dollars from a murderous organization, an organization that has no problem murdering its own people in a false flag way to justify destroying another country and its people, was willing to murder its own citizens, just like America is, then, you're going to get, they have no problem killing people, and you betrayed them. And, this is what happened. This is more than likely the story. That, and who knows what this is, there was a distraction and it happened right before Trump was, or, right after Trump had been exposed by that thing, that birthday message he sent to Epstein and these things. Remember that. He was a big winner. This picture of him drawing naked women with Trump, his name in the pubic hair, weird fucking thing, and that weird conversation he had with Jeffrey Epstein. It was incriminating and it was, totally true, right? It was released by the Epstein archives. And that day, Charlie Kirk gets murdered when Trump's just about to be, impaled on his own fucking weird shit that he did. And so, this idea that Charlie Kirk was a good person and that we need to find out who really killed him is a myth. It's not real. And Candace Owens has been perpetrating this myth, but now she comes out and says Charlie fucking betrayed her trust.
You were around for it. Is that Charlie and I had a disagreement, which fractured my trust in him. He did something that he had never done before. He lied to my face about money. Now, in retrospect, I believe that the manner in which I discovered the lie might have been by design, but there's no need for us to delve into conspiracy when the facts are plenty enough. Charlie had taken a meeting down in Florida with Ike Perlmutter at Mar-a-Lago. It was a fundraising meeting. For whatever reason, he did not want me to know about this meeting, and that was strange. It was meant to be kept a secret. Strange because we had always collaborated on and taken
Collaborators
in those sorts of meetings together. Anyway, I found out about it, and I decided to ask him casually as we were riding up an elevator at the Trump Hotel in D.C. I said to him,
again, this is her with the Trump shit and the Charlie shit. I don't know when this time frame when she got fired was. I'll look into it when it's important. Again, she's so fucking, why didn't you divulge this stuff in the beginning? Why are you waiting till now, right? She has this information she drops on our audience, and it's provocative. You're this is some of the dirt at TPUSK. Why have you waited 3.5 fucking months, right? Well, because you were pretending to be this grieving friend, right? Because Turning Point has always sucked. She left Turning Point because it sucked, right? That's what she's saying right now. That she left it because Charlie sucked. He was a lying piece of shit. That was, that's...
have you heard from Ike recently? And he looked me right in the face, just as he was getting off on his floor. And he said, no, I haven't. I haven't heard from him in 2 weeks. And I then said back to him, really, Charlie? Because you had lunch with him yesterday at Mar-a-Lago. And I saw his stomach drop. His entire face looked, as if he was going down a roller coaster. He stuck his arm back in the elevator really quickly and tried to explain it away. He then pivoted toward an apology, but obviously the damage was done. And if I'm being honest, I was as hurt as I was shocked and confused by it because we were close.
Yeah, so like fucking, and I've talked about how he bailed on her over Israel. This is part of that, right? So, you know, like if she was being sincere and honest, she wouldn't have waited this fucking long to say what a piece of fucking shit he was. Remember, she said his soul was saved at the end because he started to want to expose the truth about Israel, but only to save his audience. It wasn't because he felt bad about the genocide or the lies. Like he wanted to take their money and also be able to criticize them a little bit through other people, bringing Dave Smith in. I mean, he was a fucking weasel, right? This is she's saying Charlie Kirk was a fucking weasel. And so, you know, so you've been lying this whole time to your audience, pretending you and Charlie Kirk he was a great guy. Now she's finally saying he's a piece of shit, right?
We did go back down to the lobby. We sat at a table and we talked. I don't even remember whether or not I was angry. I probably was. That does tend to be my choice emotion. But deep down, there was a part of me that knew that it was coming because of a lot of the new hires that were coming into Turning Point USA post Kanye tweet. Charlie had new people in his ear that were hijacking his ambition, making him believe that money was the truest measure of success.
Okay, so, you know, again, this is supposed to be a godly man and, you know, a truth teller, you know. And if your goal is money, then you can't be godly and you can't be a truth teller. Like you can make money as a godly person, but it can't be your measure of success, right? And it can't be like success being materialistic success can't be that, right? You need to have that. Maybe you need money to do your, you know, there's nothing wrong with money if you put it in its proper perspective. Money is a power like anything else, but you can't let it corrupt you. You know, the money has to be for something. You know, your mission, you know, whatever it is. Everyone needs money for, you know, whatever it might be. But like you have these religious organizations that just get gaudy and they put it into, you know, I mean, all these big mega churches and the gold and the, you know, I mean, it's over the top opulence, right? It can't be that. Like, it just has to be for, you know, a purpose, right? Like we have those ashrams. You know, there's probably now $1 billion worth of properties in India. But the ashrams themselves, when you go there, they radiate God's energy. Like they're just amazing places to meditate. I mean, not now because of the piece of shit Kamlesh Patel, like the condition fades. Like if you get corrupted, then the condition's no longer there, right? But, you know, if his goal was money and influence and, you know, expansion, which they were just talking about, Erika Kirk, he wants a TPUS gay, you know, a club in every high school in the country. You know, that's not, you know, the size of your audience doesn't matter. It's the quality. Because to get a lot of people into a spiritual situation, you need to fucking compromise your principles and goals. Like, it just has to happen. There's no way around it, right? It has to happen. Like, you have to degrade your message. This is what happened with Christianity. If they took Jesus' purest message, his highest message, you know, the kingdom of heaven is within, right? Which is not even, some Bibles, it doesn't even say that. My wife was driving and she saw a biblical quote. She said to me, you know, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And I'm like, yeah, it's different in different Bibles, right? They don't even have it the same and nobody even thinks about it. Like, how many people talk about the kingdom of heaven is within? Why not? Why not talk about that? That you have divinity inside of you. Isn't that a big fucking deal? Why isn't that a big fucking deal, right? And so, you know, with all this kind of stuff, you know, you have a situation where they've taken something that's pure and they degrade it and bring it down to dumb fucks. You know, they take the lowest teachings and they bring in new teachings that appeal to regular people. And they start saying, you know, like where you have to be disciplined, they say, okay, it's okay to get divorced, right? You know, they start being lenient about things. They start bending the rules because, you know, people don't want to be told not to do things. or what to do, like in terms of the good things. And so when you start getting lower and lower people in your religion, in your organizations, they want permission to do shit, right? I mean, they want to be absolved for their sins. They want to be able to sin and then be absolved. So Christianity gave this bullshit story that you just had to accept Jesus. It didn't matter what you did as long as you accept Jesus, because you're just a sinner anyway. So enjoy your sins, but accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and he'll get you out of here. When it's time to go, you'll get a free ticket to heaven. And that's bullshit, right? Of course it's bullshit. You can't, just think about it logically. Everything's accountable. And in the divine realm, you're not accountable for anything. And then why do you care about justice then, right? If you can be a sinner and get into heaven, then why do you give a shit about law and order and fucking, stealing and robbing and killing and all these things? Because it should be chaos. If there's no accountability in heaven, why is there accountability here? Like heaven, there should be more accountability. It should be harder to get into heaven than it is to, stay out of jail, right? Like it should be, like you should be able to, you should have to work to get into heaven. It should be something hard to do, right? It should be something we have to sacrifice to get in there. And all saints and all spiritual people have to sacrifice and have to suffer. That's just how it is. And Jesus had to suffer, right? So, these are the things that they don't tell you, right? Because they don't want you, because they want dumb fucks. They want to take their message and make it, appealing to the most amount of people. And to do that, they have to be very permissive, and they have to compromise their spiritual principles, and they have to dumb it down to dumb fuck. So having a lot of people doesn't mean anything. Like, it's the quality of the people that's important. And so let's go back to it here.
It was a brilliant fundraiser. Everybody knows that, but he was also young. He was naive to what the wrong money could invite into his life. And I warned him. I warned him in that restaurant. I warned him specifically about Stacey Sheridan.
Like this is so fake. It's so hard to watch.
Everything about her made my skin crawl. And I suspected she and Tyler had something to do with it. I also warned him about Schaefer Security and Dan Flood. You can check the text messages because you have them. And now I am left wondering, obviously, if Charlie had heeded my advice.
Oh, she just listen to the wise Candace Owens, this pillar of fucking virtue, right? Like, that brings in people like Mitch Snow and these other people, right? So, like, she's celebrating this anyway. Erika Kirk is dour, and Candace Owens is celebrating this. But she shouldn't be, and her audience shouldn't be lapping this up. If she knew about this, she should have fucking said it right off the bat, and she shouldn't have pretended that Charlie was some kind of great saint and TPUS gay was worth saving, because it was corrupted. She's saying this is when she knew it was corrupted. She watched it being corrupted. She watched it going from what she thought was a pure organization, and it wasn't, because he was already taking money from Israel and these other organizations. And he was already going for Trump, to support Trump. He was already lying to these college kids, and she was a part of that. And she was, she was part of all that shit. It was always what she says it was. She's just realizing it. And Charlie was always this guy, and he was always going to go in this direction. This was a choice point, but he already made his choice. And she knew he already made his choice. She's just realizing in this moment, according to her, whatever it is. And she's, far from pure, going with all, like, how many other people have you misjudged? Why are you always surrounded? Why are you vouching for Michael Jackson and Andrew Tate and Russell Brand and Trump forever and all these other people? Like, and Mitch Snow is another piece of shit, right? Like, why are you surrounding yourselves with piece of shit and you vouch for him until you're like, hey, this guy's a piece of shit? Well, why didn't you know in the beginning like the rest of us? Why couldn't you just see he was a piece of shit in the beginning? And then when you find out and you're getting hurt by the fact that Mitch Snow's a piece of shit, why don't you just admit that you made a mistake and your judgment's off? Or he was telling you what you wanted to hear in the moment, so you ignored him being a piece of shit because he was serving your message to your audience, who you're betraying with lies like this. You've been telling your audience lies about Charlie Kirk now for fucking the last 3.5 months. That he was corrupted.
Would still be alive. I've also come to another realization that I missed at that time. Maybe the newest and the biggest influence in his ear. Who was that? Obviously, it was you. You were the newest and biggest influence in Charlie's life. You kind of all arrived at the same time.
Okay, so I'm not going to go back to it because I did it in a recent video, but she was praising Erika Kirk's fake fucking speech not that long ago. And then she said that she would, if Erika Kirk told her to stop, she would stop. And why would she do that when she knew all along? She never liked Erika Kirk. You could fucking see it. She knew Charlie was a piece of shit because she's saying it now. And she knew Erika Kirk was a bad influence. So Erika was, at this period of time, Erika was, whatever it is, I'll find the date in a moment. But Erika was, whatever she was stepping in. And Candace Owens was married and whatever, that must have been, this is like 4 years ago, right? So it was when Erika Kirk was starting, with Charlie Kirk and their relationship was starting. She's married because now they have a bunch of kids. So it's got to be at least 4 years ago. And she realized that Erika Kirk, she's a snake. You knew all along that Erika was a snake. And you've gone down this windy path of fucking Egyptian plains and Fort Huachuca and all this bullshit when it's always been about Erika Kirk. Your audience has begged you to fucking start criticizing Erika Kirk, and you never fucking did it, right? I mean, it's just fucking, I mean, it looks bad for you, but your audience isn't going to recognize it because they're dumb fucks, right? But this is a condemnation. This isn't an open letter to Erika. It's an open letter to yourself of something you should have said to your audience fucking 3.5 months ago. Or even, you could have waited till the body was cold. You could have waited a month. Okay, let's say, let everybody grieve, and you're not going after a grieving widow on day one, sure, even though she was acting fake and nobody liked her. But everybody started to wake up to Erika Kirk being a fucking nightmare. Your audience, you could have waited 2 months. I mean, now it's like fucking 4 months, whatever it is. What is it, February? What are we talking about? We're talking about September 10th to October, November, December, January. It's 5 fucking months. This is like 5 fucking months. Today is to the day. What's today? Today's the 6th. In 4 days, it'll be 5 months. Like, holy shit, you've waited half a year to finally say that you knew Erika Kirk was a cunt all along, right? It takes one to know one.
And you too, Erika, you lied to my face as we sat down in that hotel and we spoke for 4 hours. But I want to be clear, it was different. You see, with Charlie, I could forgive him. We were always like brother and sister. We went on tours thereafter. But you didn't do it.
Yeah, but why would you forgive him? Like, it's a breach, like you were building this thing together. You came up together. This was like your baby too, right? TPUSK was her thing. It was Charlie's thing that she was a part of. And then he chose Erika over you, dumped you, over this whatever in Israel. And then all the things that happened afterwards, because it would be years afterwards that she would, it would be 2 more years after that would be about Israel, right?
When you lie, you didn't do it out of naivety. You didn't do it because you were young and being pulled into the wrong direction by bad faith actors.
There's no excuse for him lying. His lying is worse. Like, she is you guys don't like each other. And Erika Kirk has to lie. Like, she's, she knows this is a bullshit. She's in a bad position. Charlie Kirk didn't have to lie to you. He could have brought you in on it and just told you, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going in this direction. I know you don't like it. Like, he could have done it that way, right? Like, there's a big difference between saying, the relationship's over and I want to date somebody else, or cheating and waiting to get found out and then saying that shit, right? Like, just being a fucking man and going up and telling you the truth. I mean, according to this story that she's saying, that's, one-sided. But we know Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit. We know Candace Owens is a piece of shit. We know Erika Kirk's a piece of shit. And so what is there to see here? Like, there's no integrity. There's no happy ending here. And TPUSK is sucky. It's a fucking bad organization. It's a bullshit organization. It's not about God at fucking all. It's devil worshiping, right? It's demonic. And so there's nothing here. It was just, she's revealing that it was always sucky. Because this happened 4 years ago, right? This happened, whatever it is, we'll get to the exact date, but at least 4 years ago. So this isn't recent. And Charlie Kirk was going to go in this direction. And so she's saying that he was a prophet. Well, why didn't he duck, right? Why didn't he stop from going to this direction? If he was a prophet, he would have went in the direction that God set out for him. If he was a godly person, he wouldn't have taken the money. He would, and TPUSK wouldn't be big, and he would be still alive. Truly godly person would have a very small audience because you're not compromising your message. And so there's nothing to see here. It's always sucked.
Andrew Colvett was never going rogue. You knew that. Every single evil thing that was done to me was done with your blessing. And I consider the onslaught of attacks that I had to endure.
Oh, they're so hard, those attacks. You got 2 million views back then. I'm sure the views have, dissipated to whatever extent. But she was getting up to 4 million views on some videos. And averaging over 2.4 million views. Now she's still getting 1.7, 1.8. And something like this she's got 1.6 on this, but it'll go up because people are going to finally hear her. She's exposing herself as well as Erika, right? But they're not going to see this. But to make it sound like you're the fucking victim here of their attacks, they weren't saying shit about you. Like, you were going after them, and you were lying to your fucking audience about it. You didn't like Erika from the get-go. You knew Erika sucked all along. And this was like a jealousy thing. He chose Erika and Israel over you, right? And that's, part of this whole thing, right? Because you could have come out against Israel then. You waited fucking another 4 years, right?
They were evil. Because you knew I was telling the truth, and you authorized people with an incredible amount of money to attack one of the few people in politics who was actually grieving your husband. You knew.
You were grieving him after he fucked you over? Like you're such a real griever?
We had a deep friendship. You knew I was telling the truth about the Catholic thing, about everything. The
Catholic thing. Are you telling the truth about the Catholic thing? That Charlie was going to become Catholic? Another bad decision by him? Which is, again, I was raised Catholic. And my mom used to have prayer meetings at her house. And I was friends with, eighth grade. And I was friends with, 10 nuns, old nuns. There's one in particular, she was from Lithuania, Sister Saint Anne. They called her. Her name was Sister Anne, but they called her Saint Anne because they all thought she was a saint. It's a very sweet woman, spiritual woman. You could feel the spiritual energy. And even back then, I was aware of those things. I could see real spiritual people. And she was one of them. And there were some people that came to the house, and my mom doing these, Catholic prayer meetings. And my sister married an ex-priest, and he was a nice guy, good guy, he left the priesthood, and there was a whole thing there, but, not for some bad reason. He just was questioning things, right? And so, but there was no issues with me. I didn't have a bad priest, none of the priests that were in my church were in any scandals. As far as I know, none of them were pedos, right? But, there is a real problem with this in the Catholic Church, a real fucking problem. And a lot of it stems from the celibacy, which is unnatural, and some of the other aspects of it, the land ownership. The celibacy is about land ownership. They didn't want to have to provide for the families of the priest, right? They didn't want, the priest to claim ownership of a church. And so the Catholic Church, the biggest thing they have is real estate. And they have, amazing real estate, amazing churches in prime locations. And so, it's got a value and it's tax-free and all that shit. And so you start having little fucking rugrats running around, little priest kids, running around claiming, fucking squatter rights and shit. So, but it's a bad organization. She's, why would you join the fucking Catholic Church knowing all the things you know about and then condemn Epstein? You can't do that. It's, they're all fucking a part of this kind of behavior. Bad pedophilia, demonic, satanic behavior.
Allowed these people to lie and to say that Charlie and I hadn't spoken since 2019. I mean, it's crazy how much of a lie that was. You authorized it, and I now know that. The question is why?
2019. The way she does that, the way she's performative. They're just two pieces of shit, right? That's what this comes down to. A couple of cunts going at it, right? We're having a cunt off here. It's getting cunty in here. We have dour fucking cunty Erika Kirk, who nobody likes, and Candace lying, manipulative cunty Owens in this corner. It's all right.
It was so cruel. It was so mean, right?
It's so mean.
Why in part?
It's so mean. It's so cruel. So cruel and so mean. Why are you so mean, Erika? Why are you such a mean girl, Erika?
That on someone who you know within a sea of snakes actually cared about Charlie and didn't want anything out of the organization.
She's shaking her head no. You want something. You want back in, like she keeps on saying it. Like she would have went back in after all that stuff. After all the stuff with Israel, all these things.
Maybe it's because I was like a loose end. One person that wasn't controlled by an organization. I'd just kind of proven that I'd rather lose everything to say something that I don't believe, least of all for money. I mean, maybe it's also because you have his phone. And when I revealed to the public that he had predicted his own death in remarkable detail, maybe you went back and you read the rest of those messages, the ones that I haven't yet revealed to the public, because in retrospect, those messages they're pretty terrifying because they're precise and it feels prophetic.
Okay, then why not reveal all of them? Why not fucking do that? See, again, withholding fucking information from your audience. You know, like, if it's for your safety, then fine. Right? Or if it's some reason, legitimate reason. But then don't bring this shit up altogether, right? Like, you're going down this road of Egyptian planes and bringing in the military and talking about the fucking evil feds and all this bullshit that she does, right? All this classist Candace Owens bullshit that she does. And you're doing all of that stuff. And you have these text messages that, you know, I got these. It's just like she said about Tyler Boyer. You know, she said that she's got text messages and whistleblowers that are saying the guy's gay. She's got proof of it. But then she doesn't release the things, right? And she doesn't, you know, she just leaves that out there hanging. And if that's not true and Tyler Boyer isn't gay, right, or you don't have the information, well, that's pretty fucked up, right? Like that's, you're not, you know, that's just not, she pretends to be like a journalist and a truth teller. But you've had these text messages that are, you know, the bombshell shit. You know, that's what made you compelling in the beginning. You had text messages from Charlie about Israel and these other things that made it look like Israel was responsible for Charlie's death, and he knew it, and that whole meeting that happened at the Hamptons. That was what made you pop in the beginning. And you could have just kept on revealing these text messages. If you wanted to string your audience along for a month or two, okay, I could understand that. It's still fucked. You know, you didn't want to release everything all at once. But you're 6 months into this and you're still talking about text messages you have that blow people away, and you're not releasing them. You're going to do it fucking now, or like, you know, you're going to tease it for next week. Is she going to do it today? Like, I don't know. I haven't watched this yet. Right? You're going to do it today. You're going to release all of them today. So we have these coming up, these fucking text messages. I guess there's one here coming up. You're finally releasing these fucking things. You know, like this is a crime on your audience the same way that Charlie lying to his audience is a crime on his audience, right? Just tell the fucking truth. That's all you have to fucking do.
Charlie was gifted. You know that. I know that. And the government most certainly knew that as well since he was a kid.
You know, gifted is, I mean, yeah, 120 IQ plus maybe some other talents, but he wasn't a fucking phenom. He wasn't anything, right? He got shackled up, but whatever.
That's why it was.
You know, I've known real saintly, great people. You know, people that are just on a different fucking level consciously. And their commitment to God is just off the charts. You can't even understand the way that they go about things because their orientation is so different from normal people that is self-interested and ego-driven. You know, people who are ego-driven you can understand their egos. You can understand their psychology. And it's easy to understand them. Like you get enough information and you can just see it on them. Like you can smell it on them. You can read it. But people who are, you know, just here to serve God, which is, you know, when you really meet people like that, of course, the master of the Sajmark system, Charji, but there's lots of other people that are off the charts, you know, in terms of their ability to, you know, not think about themselves and just love God so much and want to serve God. And when you see somebody like that, it's, you know, it's a very, I mean, it's you can't even fathom them, and especially if they're on, you know, higher levels of this consciousness. Because it's, you know, it's infinite, right? And so where we are is, like one time somebody asked Master Chargy, what was the, like, I don't know the exact question, but was the difference between this person and Babaji? And he said, there's a million times more difference between you and Babaji than there is between you and an amoeba, right? In terms of his capacity, his fully realized soul that embraces the divinity within. And so you can't even, an amoeba can't even conceive of you. An amoeba, one-celled organism, you can see through a microscope, doesn't even know your existence, right? This thing you can't even see with the naked eye. These cells, these, individual atoms, these things, these really small things, they can't conceive of the whole structure. The atom and the nucleus, the, subatomic level particles and things, microbes that live in your body. You have more, microbes in your body than you have your own cells. And microbes are not a part of your body. They're in your body, but they're something else. And so those microbes are really important, because are they bad microbes or good microbes, right? Your things, your flora and fauna and all these things, or your not fauna, but your intestinal florals, this type of thing, right? And so they can't even conceive of you. An ant can't even conceive of you, right? And you can look up at people and not conceive of them. They're beyond you. Like in the Lord of the Rings when Gandalf is fighting the Balrog, and he goes, "Get the fuck out of here!" This enemy, this demon is beyond you. You can't even hurt it. Just get out of here. You're going to be in my way. So I got to just fight this on my own because it's beyond your ability. And so Charlie wasn't that, right? Like Charlie was just an immature soul that was shackled up and whatever, like gifted and talented in maybe a material way. I mean, anybody with 120 IQ is 90 percentile. I mean, so every person which is something that people have an IQ, and IQs aren't even a good barometer of this. But if you're just what most people just think is smart, you're better than 90% of the people in the world, right? Like in terms of your consciousness and at least your mind, right? So this is what, like there's lots of people who are gifted in that way, but not really, not in a spiritual way.
At least very interesting to me that you told the New York Times, something that most people didn't pay attention to, but you told the New York Times the night before his murder, Charlie's, and I'm going to quote this, you said that Charlie's adrenal glands were just going off. He couldn't sleep. I know enough about Charlie to know what that means. That means that Charlie was being bothered. He was probably having visions like he was in 2018, probably a clearer vision than the one that I had that you guys tried to mock. That danger was coming.
Yeah, then again, you're being warned. Why not listening to the fucking warnings, right? You can call the thing off. Like you could have just called it off.
And I'm going to go ahead and say that it wasn't about a Jezebel article written by some leftist. Please stop saying that because it's not true. I know Charlie, a leftist article didn't upset him in this way. Didn't make him call a priest.
In this way, the way that she acts here, this fucking shit that she's doing, it's just so, everybody look at me like this fucking fake. They're just so insincere and inauthentic, right?
Pray over him. He thought someone was going to kill him. He did. He expressed that in writing. And you did not lose those text messages. You knew that.
If she was a good spiritual woman and her husband was having this fucking panic attack and she was at all intuitive, she would have said, yeah, let's cancel this fucking thing. I'm talking about Erika, right? If this is what happened, whatever, then she would say, we got to cancel this thing, right?
Charlie and I spoke a lot about his third eye. That's why that sentence caught my attention in the article. He spoke about the street lamps that would go off when he would run, about the special school that he had to go to.
So to learn how to take shekels? Like, you're talking about him lying to you and being immature and doing this shit and betraying you and betraying the organization, which led to it being a piece of shit organization, a negative one that helped get Trump elected and helped put out disinformation for Israel and to gaslight college kids and suck up hundreds of millions of dollars in resources to be a piece of shit organization. And, he made the streetlights flicker. Like, his third eye, that's not, the third eye, then you're getting into, like, why would you be a Catholic person if you understand the third eye? Which is, there's a lot of people who think their kundalini is open. And I'm sure there's people listening to this that will say their kundalini is open. I've said this before, and 10 people commented, yeah, my kundalini is open. Your kundalini is not open if you've been doing kundalini yoga. Because, there is these spiritual points up and down the spine. And some of those coincide with the yatra points. In the Sajmark system, the meditation I do, there's 13 yatra points that your soul passes through as it gains like a realization. And they're placed in your physical body, but they're operating on the etheric world, right? And then some of these things coincide, like the third eye. There's actually 5 heart points in the Sajmark Yatra where your soul goes through, and the power points you go through without getting the powers, because the average person doesn't need these powers, right? And the base of the spine, which the Kundalini is not touched at all. Like, it could be cleaned out because there's a lot of things there. But so many people have had their Kundalini fucked with in these fake gurus, or these people who don't know what they're doing. They have a little bit of stuff going on, people who do Kundalini yoga. And this has happened in ashram after ashram. And they have their Kundalini fucked with, and the guru can't control it in the person because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And the Kundalini then goes to these other points. I think it's called the Muladhara point. I'm not sure about that. And there's one it controls your sexual appetites, and one controls your gut, your other appetites, for food and things. And these are pleasure centers. And the power goes up the spine, and it hits these 2 centers. And if they're not purified, the person turns into a sexual deviant, or they just are like gluttonous, and they become really fat, they get big beer bellies in there. And these 2 points are like the energy goes up your spine, right? And it hits these 2 first points. And so if these things are activated and you're not purified and you're not disciplined, then you become like a demon. So it's not something that people should fuck around with, because the people who are teaching this, this happened in an ashram. I was living in Massachusetts, and there was an ashram, you can probably search for it. This is back in the late 1990s, like 94, 93, when I first started Sajmark. And my roommate had gone up there, like a housemate. I was in a shared house. And there's a guy he worked in a garage, and he was, kind of a cool guy. And he said he went to the ashram. He said that the place he went there like a year or 2 before the scandal. And he had these old gurus, and they were banging like fucking 19-year-old girls. Like they were completely deviant sexually. Like they were Epstein, because this thing had happened to their Kundalini, and it had turned them from being, spiritually oriented people to having sexual deviancies, right? And this is the need for having like a proper guru and somebody to oversee the spiritual stuff, and not to give it to people who aren't ready for it, right? And the Kundalini has no value spiritually. It's material energy. And the third eye is a power point that also, where you just can manifest things. If your third eye is open, you can manifest things, even if it's open up a little bit. There's a gland near each of these chakras, the pineal gland. But, most people should not have the power to make their wishes come true, right? Only someone who is completely surrendered to God and is purified and will only use the power when God commands it. And very few people will do that. So the majority of us shouldn't be fucking around with that shit, right? And because it leads to like you turning into a demonic failure, and then having to undo all the damage you did to get back on your spiritual path. It really fucks you over. And so there's no reason to have power unless you have been chosen for it in a divine way, and you can use it the way it's supposed to be used, right? And so the Christian religion doesn't talk about the third eye, because they don't want to acknowledge that there's these things. It's so remedial. The stuff, the Judaism, the Christianity, and the stuff with, not the Sufism, but the stuff in Islam. They don't want people to know about all these things, right? Like your infinite potential, and that your spiritual realized person, the power that you would have, but the power that you can only use if God orders you, right? You can't have this power on your own, because I was there was this guy from Canada, and he helped Babaji, the second master. He was a nurse and a chiropractor. And he's a real healer. Like, I had talked to him a few times, and I'd known he'd helped so many people physically, because people go through these cleanings at gatherings, and he was like a real healer. And he helped Babaji get physically better. And Babaji was like just, always had an ulcer, was always, barely hanging on to his physical body, because he smoked his hookah, and that was about it. He really enjoyed this hookah that he smoked, tobacco, jaggery, and charcoal. And other than that, he didn't really have anything, right? So, he barely ate, physical, and he had a lot of physical problems. But this guy helped him, and Babaji said, "I want to give you a boon." Before he helped him, he wasn't fully better. And this guy said, my boon is I want you to get physically better. And he was telling a story about this, because he said, he had read all this Indian literature and spiritual literature. This guy, again, he was from Canada, and every time somebody got a boon, which was a blessing, like a wish, it was like a genie, like again a wish, it went bad for the person, right? Whatever happened, the boon backfired and destroyed the person. And so he realized that it was a trap, like to say, to make the boon, for yourself, was a trap. So you have to do it for somebody else, right? And so that's how all this stuff kind of works. Anyways, like what you talk, the third eye thing, right? Go back a little bit.
He spoke about the street lamps that would go off when he would run, about the special school that he had to. That sentence caught my attention in the article. He spoke about the street lamps that would go off when he would run,
Go back just a little bit
about
more.
the special. I didn't make him call a priest to pray over him. He thought someone was going to kill him. He did. He expressed that in writing, and you did not lose those text messages. You knew that. But Charlie and I spoke a lot about his third eye. That's why that sentence caught my attention in the article.
Yeah, of course they don't want. Release that fucking messages. Release your third eye messages with Charlie, right? Because that's a big deal.
He spoke about the street lamps that would go off when he would run, about the special school that he had to go to.
Who goes to special schools? It's always the gifted kids that go to special schools.
We spoke about a lot of the things that were strange in our childhood, the testing that both of us had to endure. We spoke about the fact that we could both astral project. You know all of this, of course. You have his phone. And how surprised we were.
If you guys could astral project, you wouldn't be such pieces of shit. You wouldn't be so fame whores. Like, you wouldn't want to be popular. You wouldn't want... true spiritual people just don't want to be out there, right? They don't want to be. There's no benefit to being seen by more people. You allow people to see you for their benefit, right? Like, you're not looking for thumbs up and fucking praise and all this kind of bullshit. It doesn't do anything for you. Like, you're a piece of shit when you're a spiritual person. Master Chargy wrote all the time in his diary, and he was on the highest levels of he was moving through the highest levels of spiritual development. And he write, "I feel like the most unspiritual person in the world." Like, that's what saints and people like that feel all the time. Like, you have to have, it's not false humility, and it's not something that's supposed to crush your spirit. It's supposed to, remind you that you're always, you're always a potential egotistical demon. You're always going to have thoughts that are not spiritual that you have to dismiss and and embrace your true nature. It's a battle. It's a battle to you're always battling with your ego to a certain extent until, like, at some point you just it's gone, and you're just and you're functioning without any choice anymore. You're giving up your freedom of choice to do wrong. And there's a point where you just can't do wrong anymore because you won't. Like, it's just, that's been removed from you. But then you can only serve God. Like, you no longer have the freedoms that, people talk about freedom. That's what they want, the freedom to choose to do the wrong thing. And when you tell people they have to give that up, they're like, fuck you, I'm not going to do that. All right, good. Bask in your own fucking excrement. You fucking, like, wallow in your own excrement, right? But people who, and I'm not saying they don't have some spiritual, little qualities here, Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk, but they're materialistic people. If they're spiritual, it's less than 1%, right? Like, it's something that's there, you might have some dreams like Candace Owens. You might have some moments, but they're very materialistic people. They care about materialistic success. She was talking about money and things like this, but her husband is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and she has a very popular podcast, how many times has she talked about her podcast being number one? Like, that means something to you, and it shouldn't. As a spiritual person, it wouldn't mean anything to you. Your podcast sucks, right? It's not a good podcast. You're good at hooking dumb fucks, but you're not good at telling the truth. You're not good at, release the fucking messages, right?
When we learned that not everybody does that naturally, sleep paralysis, you name it, we had conversations about it. And if Charlie's adrenal glands were going off, it was probably maybe for the very same reason that I pulled my kids out of school days before he was murdered, because I sensed danger was coming.
And yet you did nothing about it. The reason you have these premonitions is to avoid catastrophe, right? You guys all knew it was coming and you didn't do anything to fucking stop it. So you guys are all pieces of shit, right? You had a prophecy because it really didn't matter him dying. He was a piece of shit. TPUSA was a piece of shit. It was going to go down anyway because of his association with Israel and Trump. Charlie Kirk was in a untenable position where he still wanted to take shekels. He was Charlie Shekels, but he also wanted to be able to tell the truth about Israel, so he didn't lose credibility with his audience, and so he was fucked. And that's why all his audience is over with you. They're still dumb fucks who think Charlie was great, and now you're telling him he's not. But you're telling him he was great, but he lied and all this stuff. But this should have happened way before. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest of this stuff, but there's a moment here. I don't know. Let me just fast forward here, see if there's anything.
Point USA, why was he given so much priority? Frenchman. I'm interested.
Okay, she gets into all that bullshit. A French man. She had something here with Erika, like she shows a clip of her. So here she is.
What the hell happened on September 10th?
Nobody gives a shit because you just said that TPUSK got compromised 4 or 5 years ago, whenever you left. I'll look it up when I'm done with this. And Charlie was a piece of shit. And you've exposed that you're a piece of shit because you still haven't released these text messages. Why not? Why not release them? You're talking about them. When people dangle things in front of you, then there's this idea of, like I said, she's the rabbit hole. She's the human equivalent of the show Lost. She dangles these things in front of you, and half the time, or more, 90% of the time, they're nothing. They're just imaginative bullshit, like creative fucking thinking, the bullshit fucking, like somebody who's constantly thinking that people are out to get them when they're not, right? And then seeing things that are going on around them and coming up with these conspiracies that don't really exist, but having a mind to convince other people that it's happening and, taking superficial things that aren't real, and little coincidences and things like this, even though they're not, that people aren't really conspiring against them. It's a form of, collective madness. And she brings all these things up, bringing in this guy fucking from Fort Huachuca and all these things. They're never going to be resolved. When she has real information, Charlie Kirk's texts, release all of them. Just read your whole text chain, break it into segments, and you can have probably a month's worth of good viewership. But as you go through it, people are going to be turned off by what he's saying because it's not going to be Christian, especially if you're talking about third eye and other bullshit stuff. Not bullshit stuff because that's real things, but things that Christians think that are not real. And it's going to, destroy his credibility. I mean, whatever her reason is, she dangles these things. I mean, part of the reason is she wants to bring you back. She wants to keep you on the hook. But part of it is she doesn't want to reveal things. Because, when they get revealed, it's going to, if Charlie Kirk loses his credibility, then who gives a shit if he died or not? People all move on. But here she is with Erika.
Why are you guys struggling to get your story straight? Why
are you guys? She's so fucking obnoxious.
Did you tell Jesse Waters this?
And you wanted to see Charlie immediately and came up. Take us through that.
We landed in Utah. Went straight to the hospital.
Straight to the hospital.
Really? Really, Erika? Straight to the hospital?
Andrew told me that when he deplaned, you guys embraced on the tarmac, and he boohoo cried in your arms.
Fuck. He boohoo cried?
He had so much pent up anxiety. So, just given the planes, which you confirmed to me which plane he was on,
The Egyptian ones?
which plane you were on, that would mean that you had to wait for Andrew to land for an hour. Waited for an hour.
That's crazy, you lying bitch. This is clearly a cunt off.
Don't do the thing where you tell me that Andrew went rogue. Don't do that, Erika. You're lying.
You're a liar, Erika. You're lying. Okay, so it's come out now that Charlie Kirk fucking lied to her and went in a totally different direction. And Erika Kirk fucking, she never liked her. And this was like, Candace's and Charlie Kirk's relationship went south when Erika came into Charlie's life. And she was handling him, and she took him in this wrong direction, a direction which, now that you see what's happening is killing TPUSK. And there's nothing to see here, right? I mean, the things, the accountability is already there to a certain extent. The failure of the organization and, all this stuff. But there's nothing really here, right? There's nothing here. I mean, there's never been anything here. Because, again, it's no tragedy that Charlie died. It's a good thing. He was doing damage to the world. He was doing damage to the youth. It was a fucking bullshit, demonic organization taking people in the wrong direction. Trump's a piece of shit. He was back in Israel, like all this stuff. And just it was all merged up and materialistic, and, it had, and Christianity sucks. I mean, there's nothing, and they were doing the worst kind of Christianity. There's nothing here, right? There was never anything here. I mean, the only thing interesting is what's happened after he was assassinated. An Erika Kirk character coming out and Candace Owens and them having this cunt off. But, I mean, it's kind of run its course. Like, Jesus Christ, where do you go from here? I mean, she should release these text messages. But, I mean, there's nothing, it's been resolved. This thing is resolved. It's there for everyone to see. All right. Okay, so in 2019, when Candace Owens was resigned from TPUSK, when I asked ChatGTP about it, they said the reason, ChatGTP did, it said the reason, was this, quote, this thing that she said about Adolf Hitler.
I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets...
Okay, so her face looks different, right? Like she's had plastic surgery, obviously.
Poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. He was a National Socialist. But if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German.
All right, so my first question is to Ms. Hirschenoff. Ms. Owens said, quote, if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. So when people try to legitimize Adolf Hitler, does that feed into what? Okay,
so she wasn't trying to legitimize Adolf Hitler. Like this, as bad as she is and shitty as Candace Owens is, that's not what she was saying. And she shouldn't have said anyway, it was stupid. Like, it's a stupid, you just don't bring in Hitler. You don't have to, right? Like if you're an up and comer and you're this kind of, whatever it is, like if you're wanting fame and you're out there and you're fodder for all this kind of bullshit, you just can't say Hitler. And she was whatever. She's obviously young, didn't have her plastic surgery. And so for years, I mean, ChatGTP, that's what they say. Everyone's saying that she left TPUSK because of this. Because her Hitler quote and the Kanye tweet, which I forget what that is, happened at the same time. So everybody thought, and she allowed them to think, that this was about Charlie saying, look, you're toxic for my organization, you have to go. That's what everybody was led to believe. Like that, everyone allowed that to happen, including Charlie and Candace. She's now saying that Charlie lied to her. And she has some tweets about this at that particular time where she was warning him about this stuff that happened. So, like she's a liar and, she's a histrionic and, all this stuff. So I don't know either way, and it doesn't really matter. But her saying now that Charlie was the piece of shit, she quit him, he didn't quit her. He lied to her and she quit because she was hurt. And so she's held on to this for fucking 7 years now, or whatever this happened. 6.5 years. Like this was 2019. And then he kind of bailed on her again when she was, outed as sort of or labeled as an anti-Semite because of her criticism of Israel about 1.5 years ago when she went through a year of hell. And Charlie was the most shackled up motherfucker out there, right? And so they didn't have a real friendship. That's not how fucking friends treat each other. They were so opposed on these things. And now, of course, everything's happened since. And so, it's just whatever it is. All right, there was a 54-minute segment, which I just did. I'm going to go to a voiceover and talk about that. Okay, so that was a 54-minute segment. That the part before this piece about her talk about Hitler, that I usually don't do a screen flow for that long. Usually I have to move around, whatever it is, clear my throat more often than not will be the issue, or I'll just say something and stumble. There's a point there where I forgot what I was going to say, but I wanted to include that whole segment in the Journey series, so I just kept on going. But usually I would take multiple breaks. It's great for me because it means less editing on the other side. But, it usually doesn't happen. And the fact that it's 54 minutes and whatever the Erika Kirk stuff is, this is already a done video. I don't even have to do anything else, cover anything else. This video is going up tomorrow on Saturday, and then I'm taking Sunday off per usual. I already have a video up on my another Will Smith video with Carl Anthony Towns, both seeming very gayish. More stories about that on my Bach Laughs Now channel, so that's going. And so I'm actually in good shape. It started to snow a little bit again. We're just getting a break from the weather. But I'm just going to read through the comments, see if there's anything here. And if there is, I'll talk about that. Otherwise, I'll end the video. We'll see. Let me go read the comments. Okay, I have one comment I want to get to now. I'm going to wait till 2 when my video, after 2 to 2 p.m. when the video drops today, because there's only about 20 comments to go through. I was gonna have one comment I want to read in a second, but Jimmy Dore had this thing about Joe Rogan being in the Epstein files and kind of excusing it. And I was going to cover that yesterday, and then I forgot about it, and I just remembered today, and I'll cover that in my next video. And apparently there is now a ransom note with no, I don't know what else with the Guthrie case, which seems, all this stuff seems fake. I call this the show, and I don't know how much I've talked about it. Everything in the show, it's not real. Like it could be real, or it could be real to the people going through it, or, whatever. I mean, this is all a show, like there's a video game, like our true essence is our soul. Being in a physical body, like it takes a long time for people to understand, and even when you do understand this, it's hard to break free from it, that your body isn't you, right? Because you have survival mechanisms. You have this, you have whatever you have inside of you that you don't want to, or your physical, the physical aspects of your existence that make it seem like you dying is the worst thing possible, right? Like everyone has that built into their system. Otherwise, people would be taking unreasonable risks and dropping like flies all the time. And when people don't have the survival mechanism, or people who mature and end up having soul consciousness, it's not a big deal. Like it's lesser of a thing, but it's always there, right? It's always there because it's built in to your human consciousness. But your human identity isn't your real identity, isn't what you really are, right? It's a soul. So if you think about this as a video game, and then within the video game, there is a show, like it's a show within the video game, right? Like all the famous stuff, all the news, and, whatever is real or not real. I mean, none of it's real on the idea that it's a video game, but whatever's in the show that's organic or contrived or acted, there's just the illusions within an illusion. And so, that's why I talk about these things in that way. And along with that, here's this comment here where person says, this is for Trump and Caroline lose it, Don Lemon's praise, and Melinda Gates, and Candace Owens sucks or something. I have no sympathy for Melinda. She and her husband harmed and is still harming many people. They can't move on. I don't have sympathy for any of these people. I mean, you feel bad if somebody feels bad. Like it just, empathy. Empathy and sympathy, I guess, are different things. But, everybody gets exactly what they deserve, or there's no God. There's either a plan and order to the universe, or there's disorder and chaos. And if there's chaos, well, then if you live in a chaotic universe, then things aren't fair, right? Like there's no equations, there's no, there's no karma, there's no accountability, there's no samskaras, there's no, any of these things. It's just random. Like any random thing can happen to you at any time. There's no plan. There's no forces overseeing you and there's no divine angels, spiritual, beings overseeing your life. There's no, process here. There's no soul. There's no purpose. It's just random. It's just accidental. It's all just some random thing that's happened. Chaotic and, more or less a mistake. And life has no purpose. And there's people who believe that. George Clooney, based in his shitty movies, and all these people. And so if that's the case, then there's no victims because everything's random. Anything can happen anytime. It's cartoon world. It's Toontown. But if there's order in a script and there's accountability, then there's, a reason for everything. And maybe you can't see that reason because you can't look at your past lives. You can't look at your mistakes in the past or any of these things. But either way, everything comes back around. I mean, this is, again, the year of accountability. We're starting to see a little bit of it with the Epstein stuff. But more, you'll see more of it that's not controlled. All right, so let me take a break here and see if there's any more comments worth covering later on in the day. I just want to say this. Like I said in the beginning, I just find these two women intolerable. And I don't want to, it's just hard for me to watch either one of them. Or just experience them as people, whatever it is. It's just icky. But the reality of this thing is, I want an exit ramp for myself, and there's people who are still interested in this. But this is a big reveal that she just had. Like, she withholds information forever. But Candace Owens telling the story that Charlie was a lying piece of shit, and he hurt her by lying to her. And this reveal, and then, again, that Erika was all along at that point in time, because Erika and Charlie were only married 4 years. So when this happened with Erika and Charlie, with Candace and Charlie, when Candace resigned, Erika was probably saying that she was needing to get control over Charlie and get rid of Candace's influence. I mean, that's how this narrative is it's what I've been saying since the beginning. These bitches hate each other. They weren't friends. They weren't connected, right? Candace got married and Charlie lied to her and she quit TPUSK, and then Charlie took it in a completely different direction. That's what her story is. And Erika was pushing him in that direction, which was a demonic direction, which, that bears out to what Erika is doing now, where Candace is, slightly more of a truther and, wherever Candace is, and more of a, suspicious of the official story. And Erika is like just pro-government, pro-intelligence community, pro-FBI, pro all these things, right? Don't ask any questions. She's the antithesis of a truther. And so taking Charlie and, pro-Israel and pushing all this whole agenda. And, like you can see that's a legitimate interpretation of Erika. And like I said, they hate each other. They've hated each other since the beginning. They weren't friends. And, and Candace Owens has been resentful of her. And now she says it, like 5.5 months, almost, 5 months since the fucking, the bullshit thing that, whatever, his assassination and the rest of these things, right? And, there's some resolution there, as much as you can just, read between the lines. Like, that's what this is about. This conflict it's a battle over TPUSK, because Candace started it with Charlie, and Erika took it in a different direction, and now it's cratering, and Candace is bitter about it, and Erika is, I mean, she could have said this stuff in the beginning, but she's known Erika as a piece of shit all along. Anything she said positively about Erika was lying to her audience because she wasn't ready to reveal her true feelings, right? And, there was maybe a good reason in the beginning, but you didn't have to lie about it. You didn't have to promote her. You could have just, said nothing about her and then waited till it was appropriate for you to tell everyone what a piece of shit she is, right? But Candace isn't like that because she's manipulative and shitty too. Anyways, I'll check back in a little bit. Just I haven't. It's still like 1 o'clock. Just ate lunch and had some more thoughts about this. So, the timelines that Candace Owens is so famous for giving. Like she does these timelines, but she doesn't do them for herself, right? And there's an old video I just watched of her being grilled about a Hitler comment and these other things, and her face looks different. Like she definitely had some work done, like as they call it, plastic surgery. This whole fake thing that these guys are all so fake, and they're all about appearance and superficial things, right? As much as she wants to claim Charlie, made the lights flicker and he had some kind of third eye thing and prophesorial things going on, and he knew he was going to be killed, but he did nothing to change that, right? And he did nothing to avoid the trap. But sometime in 2019, Candace Owens said controversial things, and she claims Charlie lied to her face, and she quit him, and he didn't quit her. And she warned him about all these devils and demons and, dark money that he was taking. And then again in 2024, I want to say, 23 or 24, it must have been 24 because it was when the stuff was going on with Israel and Palestine, that she had relationships and Charlie had relationships with the pro-Israeli movement, and Trump was completely controlled under Zionist control, the best friend Israel had ever had for so many years. And she never bothered to look into the ever-prevalent Israel narrative, right, until then. But then she did look into it, and then she was called Anti-Semite of the Year, and Charlie bailed on her again, up until the point where he finally realized he was going to lose his show and his popularity. And being the piece of shit he was, he tried to get other people to speak truth, go Max, as he called it, in terms of Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, and then talked about bringing Candace back after all that mess, and then wanted to do a whatever it was, a Doge-style audit of TPUSK because they saw that the money was being embezzled, and then a few days later he was killed. Candace had this all along, and that Erika Kirk had always been a nightmare, influencing him in the wrong direction, that he, once he married her, was with her, he immediately went in this other wrong direction with all these powerful, satanic, evil fucking people, right? And that's, it was sometimes your spouse, always your spouse is going to influence you, your significant others, your friends, your spouse, your family, but certainly your spouse more than anybody else. And he went into a completely different direction when, he was with Candace, and then when he went with Erika. And so Candace that's her story, right? And that she was deeply hurt. She had all this stuff during this period of time and just chose to withhold it from her whole fucking audience and everybody else. And it could have been resolved a lot easier and faster if she had said it right off the bat. That Erika was the fucking devil in Charlie's life and the big influencer for him to go the wrong direction, and it eventually led to his demise and him falling and turning to a piece of shit. Remember, she said that his soul had been saved in one of her videos. She said about Charlie. It's clear that Charlie's soul had been saved. Why? Because, this is a political thing. It isn't about spirituality. And the only reason he was turning on Israel at the end, it was because he didn't take the money. They were going to offer him life-changing money, and he didn't take it. Benjamin Netanyahu was going to meet with them, and there was all these people that were going to give him hundreds of millions of dollars, give him stock options in some company that'd be worth like half a bill or something like that. Life-changing money, right? Compared to all the millions he's already getting. And he said no, and she said, I knew that he was saved his soul because he finally learned that these guys, but that's not saving your soul. That's being a complete sellout and then realizing how bad it is and sort of reversing yourself, more to do with your audience and seeing it was bad for the company, because they wanted him to give Israel a glowing recommendation and not bring in anybody else, anybody that would even hint at criticism that Israel was the greatest country in the world and that we were the greatest friends to America. And if anybody said anything like slightly different, they couldn't be a part of TPUSK. And all of his audience was turning on that idea. And so he'd be a laughing stock. So it wasn't, So this is the kind of pieces of shit we're dealing with, right? Like people who, you can't even call them truthers, that, they started off ambitious, and their ambition wasn't about telling the truth or being a good Christian or being a godly person, right? It's none of these things. Their ambition was their, rise to, is completely ego-driven. And, just look at these miserable fucks, right? Lying, manipulative, miserable fucks, all of them. Especially, Candace now, because Erika's like just a shell of herself, because, the reality is that you're not likable, Erika. Like that's like she didn't get the memo her whole life, and then all of a sudden it's clear people just don't fucking like you, right? And then this stuff with Candace and the rest of it, and then she's running this company that was already headed for the basement. And all these employees for years that worked there a year and a half and quit because they realized it was a fraudulent organization, and they hated each other, infighting and drama, because it's nothing like they pretend it's to be. It's just a fucking piece of shit organization. It's everything I said it was. Charlie is the person I said he was when I first saw him and knew nothing about him, that this guy's just a piece of shit, and he's clearly, it's out there now that that's the case and should be for everyone to see. And so there's really nothing to see here, but this has always been about these two bitches having a cunt off, right? So never liking each other, and then the way this all went down. Okay, so I'll wait a little while, see if any more comments come in, and then I'll close this video up. Okay, so it's now 6 o'clock, just finished eating dinner. There's no comments worth covering here. And, it's time to wrap this thing up and get it up tomorrow night. This video will be around 9 p.m., and then I'll take the next day off, which will be Sunday. This will be up on Saturday night, the 7th of February, and then Sunday I'll take off. There'll be a video that's on the Apocalypse Now channel, and then I'll come back here on Monday. And there's so much stuff here. Like I got a bunch of funny memes and just weird stuff, information that's coming out about Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sure there'll be more in the next couple of days. So, all right, that's it for now, and I guess I'll do something on fucking Super Bowl, or whatever. And we'll see. All right, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.